Hi, and welcome to the 2015 ACSU Debate, brought to you by CTV 11 and Collegian. We have your commercial-free coverage streaming on Channel 11, the online, and the app. Today's debate will be moderated by Executive Editor Kate Winkle.
My name is Kate Winkle, and I am the Executive Editor of CTV, the Collegian, and Collegian.com. Welcome to the 2015 ASCSU Presidential Debate presented by the Rocky Mountain Collegian and CTV. This debate is broadcast live on Comcast Channel 11, as well as streaming live on the Collegian app and on Collegian.com. There will be two parts to this debate. The first will take about an hour and include 6 questions, 4 aimed at the presidential candidates and 2 for the vice presidential candidates. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to answer, and we will rotate which campaign starts. If both the president and vice president would like to respond to a question, they will still only have 2 minutes total. The second half of the debate will be an open Q&A session where audience members will have the opportunity to ask the candidate questions. Before we begin, each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves and talk a bit about their platforms. So let's start off with Lauren and Philippe.
Good evening. I'm so honored to be here, and I'm really thankful for the Collegian for putting this on. So the one thing I want to start out with is I am currently the Deputy Chief of Staff for for Sam and Lance's administration, and I am so proud and honored to say that I'm a part of their administration. They have worked so hard this year to lay the groundwork for a good foundation to send ASCSU in a more positive direction. And they have basically set the framework to launch ASCSU from a good organization to an excellent organization. And that's really why we're here tonight, is we want to promote our initiatives and our platform, but we also want to take this organization from good to excellent. I have a passion for students, I have a heart for serving, and I've always been like that. And of course, I'm a real student, and I've faced real challenges here at CSU, and that out of those challenges, that is my inspiration and my launching pad. So with that, I will turn it over to Philippe.
Hello, my name is Philippe Degruc, and we are write-in candidates. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you all so much for coming and listening to this debate. I think it's actually absolutely critical to make an informed decision. Personally, my platform is going to be very simple. Our platform is going to be based around transparency, sustainability, and being able to reach out to everyone. So in essence, we want to be transparent. We want to show everyone, hey, what is ASCSU? To answer that question, we'd love to open the doors for you. So in essence, ASCSU is an organization, student government, and for those who don't know, we help with the programs. We write legislation for students. We, in essence, bring about the changes that the students feel necessary. And anyone can come in, anyone, which is the wonderful part of ASCSU, and that's what really brought me in. I was a senator at ASCSU for a little while.
All right, your time is up, and I will try to give you a 10-second warning during the entire time, during the debate portion. But let's move on to Quan and Clayton.
Hi. First off, I would like to thank the Collegian staff and CTV for taping this event and having us and inviting us. I would like to thank my opponents for coming and debating. I'm sure it will be a great one. My name is Quan Yerby.
And I'm Clayton King.
And we're running for student body president and vice president. Our platform is Fight On, #FightOn, which is a social media campaign because we did not want to hand out flyers and because sustainability is a big part of our platform. After that, it's RCSU. That gets to the culture, kind of culture that we want to have at CSU. And lastly, student rights. We believe that there are rights that we need to gain and rights that we need to maintain. And we are the leaders that are most available and most prepared to do so.
And Clayton?
Hi, I'm Clayton King, currently an ASCSU Senator for Liberal Arts, along with the Vice Chair for the Liberal Arts Dean's Leadership Council and intern for Jared Polis. Our platform really is about that visibility and interconnectivity between the students and their government. We really want to reach out to the students and branch the organizations who really haven't had that branching in the previous couple of years, and we really think that could facilitate a better growth of CSU towards where students really want the community to be, along with interconnectivity with the city government as well.
Thank you. And now on to Jason and Taylor.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having us. It's really a privilege. My name's Jason Sidoriak. I'm running for president of student government here. I served in the United States Marine Corps Infantry for 6 years. I am a part of the Coloradoans editorial board. I am the chair of the Citizen Review Board for the city, and I'm also a senator here at ASCSU. So we have a lot of great ideas to bring to the table. Really what it comes down to is we are the most qualified and the most experienced candidates that can actually make change here at CSU. It comes down to who can be taken most seriously at the table, whether it's at the Board of Governors, whether it's at City Council, or with the departments. That's what it comes down to, and the past is the best indication of the future. And if there's anything that we can say, is that when we put our minds to something, we follow through and we accomplish it. And our experience seriously shows that. My running mate?
Hello everyone, my name is Taylor Alba, and I am running for ASU Vice President. ASCSU, wow, I obviously don't know where I'm going. So a little bit about me. I've had a lot of student experience here at CSU. I'm on my second year of working with orientation and transition programs as an orientation leader. I currently work as a resident assistant within Corbett Hall, and in ASCSU, I'm the Deputy Director of Student Services. So why we're up here today is we absolutely love this university, and it has really changed us as individuals, and we want to take the experiences that we've had and the influences we've had from this community and implement this into the organization that we have come to know and love.
All right, thank you all again for being here. And if anyone in the audience would like to use Twitter to tweet about this debate, the hashtag is #ASCSU Debate. Pretty simple. But now we are going to move on to the formal question period, and we're going to start with Jason. So the question is, last semester, the CSU administration said ASCSU is, quote, not a state or a local public body. What do you think about that characterization, and how do you plan to address student body concerns related to ASCSU's ability to govern?
You know, I think that's correct, but I think we've always known that. ASCSU is a tool, and what it comes down to, it will only accomplish what we need it to accomplish if we actually harness what it is. If we have someone in ASCSU that knows how to take public opinion and turn it into social leverage, and then apply it in the places it needs to be. City council, administration, the departments. It comes down to someone who has the experience, such as myself, with the Center for Public Deliberation, to harness that public opinion, ease the tensions, and then turn that public opinion into solutions. So what it comes down to, yeah, we don't really have binding agreements, but we're the voice. And it comes down to who can take that voice and be seen as most serious, most experienced, professional, and tact to be able to articulate what the students want. That's what ASCSU is. It is not necessarily a place to get experience, certainly it is, but what it is, it's a tool. So we can get the resources and the opportunities for students. And that's basically what it comes down to. It's social leverage. We need someone in the office that knows how to actually manage that.
All right, sounds like an interesting answer. Let's see what the other candidates have to say. Let's go over to Lauren, same question.
That ASCSU is an organization that is built and comprised by students, and that is imperative to our mission to serve the student body. We are an organization that can advocate for student concerns and challenges to the CSU administration, to the city of Fort Collins, and as well as to the state of Colorado. And what better way to serve the student body than by being students ourselves and understanding the frustrations and the challenges that students face. And the other thing is we have influence. The CSU administration is very receptive to ASCSU and who we are as an organization. And we have built those relationships for a long time. And I want to continue and further that, building those relationships, because that is what is going to create change. So maybe not, ASCSU is maybe not a governing body, but we definitely advocate, we influence, and we empower people to make the best decisions for students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Kwan, same question.
I think it's a great question. It was actually a statement that was made in my impeachment, and it was made to basically support the wrong decisions that ASCSU made. ASCSU is not a tool. It is a government. Governments are here to be stewards of public funds. We take about $2.1 million from the students, and what do we do with it? We need to use it better. Governments are servants. We need to be serving our student body, giving them what they need, giving them what they want, and being there when they need it. We also are supposed to protect them. Right now, the student body is being squeezed by the university for every penny and being squeezed out of the city limits by Fort Collins. We need to work with administration, work with our city council to make CSU and Fort Collins a better place for students. That's when we become the government that we're supposed to be. That's when we really start representing the students. And that's what me and Clayton are here to do.
Thank you very much. Lauren, you are going to start with the next question. So how will you keep the student body informed about what ASCSU is doing and encourage student body participation?
That's a great question, Kate. One of the things that our main initiative is to run on transparency and to inform the student body of how ASCSU functions and what we actually do. Because we actually are an organization that does a lot for the student body, and a lot of students don't know exactly what we do. So Philippe and I want to empower students with knowledge and information. We also want to work to build a good, strong working relationship with the Collegian. And because we believe that the Collegian is an organization that can sometimes best communicate with the students on our behalf. And so we really want to build strong ties with them. And we also want to continue to encourage ASCSU members to go and talk to their peers, go and talk to their classmates, go out onto the plaza, and to continue to advocate and figure out student concerns. Because we can do student surveys, but what really matters is the personal connection from ASCSU to the classroom and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Kwan, same question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. How will you keep the student body informed about what ASCSU is doing and encourage student body participation?
Well, first, I would do what I did as a senator. I always polled my own classrooms as well as my own constituents, student groups, student organizations. Clayton has actually brought up the idea to me that we need to get more student organization involvement. We are proposing making student organization votes and basically their endorsement equal, if not greater, than the senators in the Senate. We also want to have them writing more bills, getting more of their opinion, and voting on issues. We also want to use what our campaign is already doing, social media. I think we've pioneered social media as far as use in a campaign, but we also want to take that, bring that back to how our student government is going to run. Meet students where they are, and they really are on Instagram, and they're on Facebook, and they're out there on social media.
All right, thank you. And Jason, same question.
Sure. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we have so many issues here on campus is because we don't have the correct discourse happening, and when it does happen, it's not being followed through with in regards to solutions. So I think we have a lot of great resources already here in the community on campus. The Center for Public Deliberation is an incredible one, and it needs to be used more often by ASCSU. I think we use it about twice a year. What they do is they have a public forum They don't really reach out to experts. It's just everyday people. And they put forth their grievances, and those grievances are turned into solutions. It's not just easing tensions. Also, yeah, fostering a better relationship with the collegian. With the debacle of the impeachment, we saw that we didn't have that relationship. Also, the Coloradoan, too. We can reach outside the campus. Now, I'm on the editorial board for the Coloradoan. It's been a long time since we've had a student on that board. And why don't we just try to do that for every year? We need to have that student opinion there. And then lastly, let's create transparency and accountability of Senate. Let's put microphones in there and video cameras. Now, we can make that feasible. And if the collegian is putting out a story about what we did on Wednesday night, and someone doesn't believe what's in that story, they can just go up on YouTube, find Senate, and check us out. And that way, people will be more engaged. Maybe they would actually want to come out to a Senate session and participate. So those are a few ways that we can actually make ASCSU known for what it is, and then get more participation by harnessing that public opinion, turning it into social leverage, and then just educating people overall. And that's how we can accomplish that.
Thank you very much. If you're just tuning in on collegian.com or Channel 11, this is live coverage of the 2015 ASCSU Presidential Debate, hosted by the Collegian and CTV. I'm Kate Winkle, Executive Editor of CTV, the Collegian, and collegian.com. Kwan, you are going to start the next question. And it's kind of a follow-up to our previous question. So what plans do you have to maintain or increase transparency of ASCSU's operations?
I think that's a great question. Actually, as a senator, I proposed legislation that would actually do just that. Actually, last year I heard rumors that presidents don't even sign the bills that Senate works really hard to pass. I will pass my bills in front of the media and in front of the Senate. I will also do a State of the Association speech, which is also a bill that I passed. They didn't want it to make it a mandate, as our President of the United States is mandated to make a State of the Union. I wanted to make a State of the Association speech. Tell students what the issues are and what I'm going to do about it, and so that they can hold me accountable. That's something I would be willing to implement, as well as, like I said, status reports and keeping the students in the conversation. A lot of things have changed this year. A lot of different projects have been green-lighted under this administration, but the students did not know what direction these projects were going in. As president, I would not let anything go unsaid and not let anything go unscrutinized.
Thank you. Jason, same question.
So like I said, getting recording devices in Senate is imperative. And we don't necessarily have to use it just for Senate. We can use it for cabinet meetings. We can use it for any other organization that would like to use Senate. We need to have a better public relations manager, someone who actually is constantly engaging the collegian. So, I mean, a lot of the times, if it doesn't seem like it's transparent, it's mostly because just miscommunication between us and the collegian. In addition, I'm pushing for a citizen review board for the police department here. Now, that's not necessarily ASCSU, but it will be part of ASCSU. The students and the faculty will be working within that public space. So it may not be necessarily oversight of ASCSU, but because it's an open public space where we can talk about grievances, it's still keeping it transparent, keeping it accountable. Civilian oversight of the police department, while also we can make it sort of a space where people can come together, submit their complaints against ASCSU, and then a memo will come to me so I can take the appropriate actions as president to change what we have to do to make things better, to make things more accountable, to make ASCSU best reflect the students, because that's what we need. And it always comes down to, is our discourse happening, and is it actually effective? And that's the ways we can make that happen.
Thank you. And Lauren.
So I started in ASCSU as the Executive Director of Outreach. It was my favorite. It's my favorite department in the administration, because it really gets to the heart of reaching students and reaching student opinion and reaching out through programming. So I would like to utilize that Department of Outreach to continue to maintain good relationships with student organizations and create programming and promote programming that will encourage student participation within the organization. Another thing that I would like to address is that as the Deputy Chief of Staff, I am technically also the press secretary for ASCSU. And so I would just like to clear up what Jason said about not having good connections with the Collegian, because I have worked on that relationship all year, and I have tried to maintain it to the best of my ability, even through the impeachment process. And part of the impeachment process was maintaining internal confidentiality and human resources to protect the students in our organization. And we knew going into it that we had to plan appropriately, since the impeachment had never really gone fully through. And so we tried to be as transparent as possible. We went to the Collegian. I actually went with to the Collegian with Andrew Bondi to talk about what was coming up through Senate, that the impeachment was going to happen, and the process that we have established to deal with the impeachment. And so I think we've done a pretty good job facing the circumstances that we faced this year, trying to connect to the student body through the Collegian. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, the next question is going to start with you. So how will you gauge students' opinions of crucial campus issues beyond just using student surveys? And how do you plan to represent students' voices to the CSU administration?
You know, I'm going to keep on hitting the Center for Public Deliberation, and I'll put in a plug. Why not, since I'm already doing it? It's a great organization. Basically, you go in there as a student and you become a trained facilitator, and you're getting training that's, you know, worth thousands of dollars. And that's how I really want to harness that. I've done surveys through CSU, not just walking around to classrooms or on the plaza asking for opinion and not writing down that data. But Center for Public Deliberation, you can actually follow through and get solutions. You know, let's do more roundtables. We don't do roundtables in ASCSU, but you know, the federal government and the General Assembly is constantly doing roundtables. Senator Kafalis, every weekend, he's got a roundtable going on. We need more of that. And I've got a lot of skills to actually articulate that, to let the administration know, city council know exactly what students want. And you know, with my composure from the United States Marine Corps, I hold my ground. Yes, we have to compromise. That doesn't mean we're sacrificing values for the students. You know, you have to adapt and overcome. You can't be a fanatic because you don't accomplish anything. We have to all be respected at the table and not pull out the war drums because no one's going to open up their doors to you. So my professionalism, my tact, administration and city council, I've got a great rapport. They know where I come from. They know the things that I've accomplished, and I think that they'd be pleasantly surprised to see that they'd be working with me because they know that I follow through and that I push the envelope. My motto is to be bold yet calculated, you know, to go all the way but make sure that we're not making mistakes along the way. And I think through the Center for Public Deliberation, we get those solutions, and then we actually present it instead of writing a bill and then hoping it gets to the Board of Governors. Actually present it. And those are some of the things that I would do as president.
All right, thank you. And Lauren, same question for you.
Okay. So one thing that I would love to do if I am elected the president of ASCSU is to actually have a Dropbox of so students can drop their comments in at any time of something that they are concerned about or something that they really feel like they need to say to the administration. And I'd really like to just keep that as just a typical normal operation at ASCSU. So any student at any time can address a concern. And then also with the CSU administration, I've worked this year to build strong professional and I've worked to build strong professional relationships with the administrators, and I would like to continue fostering those relationships, as I know that it is very important to have good relationships with them in order to get student concerns addressed. And then finally, I would like to say that our students know what's best. Our students are smart. They know the challenges that they face. and they will have the best voice for what we can take to the administration. But on the flip side of that, I would also like to say that we need to consider the people that we're working with. We need to consider other people's interests as well, because then we can work towards the best solution with thinking about all parties involved and not just students on our campus. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Kwan, your turn.
Well, with that decision, I think I've been very vocal about my stance on that. As president, I'm here to represent the students, not any other lobbyist groups, not administration, not the city of Fort Collins. I'm here to represent the students, and I will put a bold stance on what the students want. We know what they want. They want less construction. They want affordable education. So I'm a fight for that and nothing else. I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to make strides in different directions. But it's always about putting what the students really want first, and always stressing that. It's not about pandering to the administration or giving them that, and it's also not about banging war drums. No, it's about having professional conversations, but it's also about stressing this is what the students want, and you have to remember us. Can't forget us. Please do not silence us on these issues. And if we allow our leaders to just give in so easily as they've done time and time again, we're going to continue to see the same things happen. My opponents clearly, I think, showed that they are more worried about other groups and marketing other groups instead of marketing the students. We have so much to offer. And as I've said on the Senate floor time and time again, the students of CSU are not stupid. They are some of the brightest, smartest students. They are able to have calculated and smart decisions. See another way to go around these projects. See another way to bring the university forward without it being on the backs of students and without it being so negative. And like I said, I will always be on the student side, putting the student voice first.
Thank you. For those of you just joining us, this is the ASCSU presidential debate, although the next two questions will be aimed towards the vice presidential candidates. Philippe, we will have you begin. So a big role for the vice president is serving as the leader of Senate. What skills and experiences do you have that will allow you to manage Senate, and what would you do to improve its current operations?
Hi. As I said before, I was in Senate. I have been there for the proceedings. I've seen how it runs. I've been to the external committees. I've been to the internal committees. I understand how Senate works by being in the process itself. On top of that, I've seen Lance Lipuma do a phenomenal job this year of guiding Senate, even through turbulent times, for example, the impeachment, which really is not a very common thing that happens. And, I think he has handled it very well. If elected as the vice president, I really plan to run Senate very similarly to Lipuma. He's always been very organized, getting out everything that's necessary for the senators to have them read the bills and be able to comment on them in session. What I would love to work on, however, is the involvement rate. Currently, we have 8 seats that are currently open in Senate, and I'd really love to fill those. And I'd love to work with the Retention and Recruitment Officer, PJ Seal. And currently there are 8 seats. Honestly, we can get them filled, and we need more representation. If you're talking about diversity, if you want representation, come and apply. We have openings in national sciences, 4 of them. We have 3 in engineering, 2 in business, and 1 in the College of Health and Human Sciences. So feel free to apply. The other thing that I'd love to work on is on the input of students, because not many know that they can walk into Senate on Wednesday night at 6:30 o'clock. They can walk in and be in the gallery and input on the bills. So that is what I'd love to promote as vice president. That's how I'd love to run Senate efficiently, and it's going to be done for the students, because that's who we represent. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. Clayton, same question to you.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to state out that Jason and I were both ratified on the same night for Senate, so we both had that same experience in Senate, and I feel very comfortable on the Senate floor I'm always making points of order to make sure everything is running fluidly, and I've really appreciated the job that Lance has done in the last year. I really think that we can build on that and expand the capabilities of Senate, whether it be by dissolving into the committee as a whole. Sometimes this is chaotic, but I feel comfortable in managing the chaos. Sometimes you just have to do things like this and allow chaos to run its course in order to get things done, and I am 100% willing to do that. I feel comfortable with Robert's Rules of Order, and I've been in Senate for the last year or so, and I just really have loved it and would love to lead that body.
Thank you. Taylor.
Yeah. So right now in the current state of the ASCSU Senate, the Vice President's role is to organize and keep the peace within Senate. Something that we want to do to kind of switch it up a bit is to hand over the gavel to the Speaker Pro Tem to organize Senate. This way, as Clayton said, would expand the opportunities of Senate as its own independent entity in order to free up my responsibilities if I am elected to be Vice President to run SFRB effectively and efficiently, as well as establish faculty relations. And I know some of you may be thinking, what are the executive checks on this? So if there were to be an instance where Senate would be getting a little bit out of hand or I deemed it necessary, it would still be possible for the Vice President to come in and take the gavel and once again organize Senate the way they want it to. Thank you.
Thank you. Clayton, you will start the next question. So are there any changes to the SFRB, which is Student Fee Review Board, process that you would like to see instituted?
You know, that's a great question. I think that there definitely needs to be more student input on the SFRB. It has expanded in the last year, which I've really appreciated, but I think that the students really need to be more represented in the fact that these fees are taxes that are put on the students, so they need to know exactly what they're being charged with and exactly what they're paying for. So there needs to be more student input. I'd love to expand the idea of maybe having it recorded or something to be put out for publication as well so that students know exactly what they're paying for. We would like to do everything that we can to actually fight against fees. We know the rising cost of education is really burdensome on students, whether they're low-income students or whatnot, and we really want to make it more affordable by putting a good faith effort forward at the beginning and actually trying our best to decrease the ASCSU fee, whether that be by a penny or a dollar. We think it's possible and want to actually encourage decreasing of fees in the next year so that other entities know it's possible to do instead of keeping and raising these costs as they just creep up along with tuition.
Thank you. Taylor, you will go next.
Awesome. So right now, when budgets are presented to the Student Fee Review Board, how they're presented is a bit different from each organization. So with some organizations, they have a full detailed budget showing exactly where the student fees are being filtered into. And with some, it's just kind of showing where the money is and they need a budget increase. So with that, I want to mandate for every organization that comes to the Student Fee Review Board to have a complete detailed budget form showing exactly where the increases are coming, where the student fees being filtered into, to show where our money is going to and if it is actually directing or influencing us as students. Also with that, I would like to say that I wouldn't want, well, not wouldn't want, but it would be really difficult to lower student fees, seeing as that would take away the resources that student fees already provide us. And I think that every single fee provided entity on campus provides a very specific role for each student. With that, with this new mandated budget, it would show where everything's going, so when an organization does come and present to us, that we make sure that if there is an increase or if it stagnates, that it's done responsibly.
Thank you very much. Philippe, same question for you.
Possible just to repeat it so I make sure to answer it accurately?
Yes, of course. Are there any changes to the SFRB process you would like to see instituted?
The SFRB process, currently, the way it stands, honestly, it's very detailed. I do get the budget sheets. I can go to the finances office right now in ASCSU, talk to Ryan right now and say, hey, can I see the book? Can I see the Excel spreadsheets of where everything's going? What do people want to do with our money? And the thing is, though, he can give me all of the spreadsheet, all the Excel spreadsheet, tell me exactly how much of an increase is it going to be. Is it going to be 30 cents? Is it going to be 7 cents? Is it going to be $1.77? And the thing is, though, I can monitor that, I can see that, and I can see what parts is it going to. Is it going to salaries, which are mandatory increases? So there's nothing to do, so there are mandatory increases there. Is it going to materials? Is it going to something else? There is already that spreadsheet created, so that's just something that I'd love to address. This is why I'm really in favor of SFRB being run as it is. And I've also attended UFAB and UTFAB, otherwise known as the University Technology and Facility Fee Administration Boards. And in essence, they're running the same. The presentation do give breakdowns of everything. And the thing is, though, if more students come to these presentations, to SFRB, to UTFAB, to UFAB, they can make the choice. They can see where the money's going, how it's actually rebuilding the buildings, how it's actually inputting flipped classrooms, how it can actually change out a light bulb in a projector. And that really does matter, because what happens when the professor just messes with the equipment and it kills a part of the class? It means that you're not getting the education. So when it comes down to it, I really don't see too many changes because it's already efficient. I would love to see it recorded, perhaps. But overall, it's already being run really well, but it needs to be more attended. UTFAB yesterday, on Monday, held a meeting. There were 0 attendees. Just saying, come if you want to know.
Time is up. All right. Thank you all. This concludes the formal portion of the debate. We will now invite members of the audience to come forward and ask questions into this microphone. Please, each person will have about 30 seconds to ask a question to either the candidates in general or a specific candidate or campaign. They may also ask a follow-up question if necessary. So we'll give any of you time to come down to the mic and ask any questions you have. Don't be shy. I know you have some. Go ahead.
Hey everybody. So I'm supposed to be impartial on this, but I do have a question for y'all. What is your stance on the In Pursuit of Fiscal Responsibility bill currently on the Senate floor after elections?
Shall we start with the Sidoriak campaign?
Is that the bill that's going to set up the Senate budget? I'm in full support. Honestly, we need to give Senate more power. That doesn't mean that we should give up our executive checks in Senate. You know, we can still have oversight of each other, but Senate over the last few years has been losing power, and I think this is a great opportunity for them to gain more power, and then also it gives the senators something to do, to actually take a look at the budget, keep the executive accountable, you know, bend their minds around these numbers. And that's going to be good for the students, honestly. So I'm in full support. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go over to the Wester campaign.
Okay, thank you for the question, Rio. I really appreciate it. So one of the things I've considered, this was actually proposed to me last week during a meeting, and I think there is some possible benefits to it. I just want to make sure it's done in a way that's balances, like Jason said, balances out more power, but still giving regards to who is accountable, like who is accountable for the fees that are being spent, because I think that is really important, because once you lose that accountability, then no one can really be held responsible. So I want to make sure it's in a balanced way that won't overstep one side or the other. So thank you.
Thank you. Yerby campaign, your response.
So I appreciate the idea of the fiscal responsibility and the balance between the two branches to check each other. I do have some worries about the content of the bill regarding sometimes there are things that happen during a year where budget the budget does need to be rearranged in an immediate manner so that things can actually take fold, events and whatnot. Sometimes things have to be rearranged, and I'd like some sort of clause in there that allows an executive order to move funds in an emergency and then have a retroactive vote for our Senate. I also think that the leadership of the actual board that is created through this bill should be chaired by someone with extreme fiscal training, someone like the actual director of finance, maybe being a non-voting chair or something along those lines. That way there is that large fiscal check in the board itself, just so that we can maintain that professionalism of the board.
Thank you very much. You all feel free during the question and answer to come over to the mic. Don't be shy.
So this is a question to the vice presidential candidates. So being the senior member of the Student Fee Review Board, one of the things that I've seen over the last 3 years is actually an increase in the size of the Student Fee Review Board as a whole. So two parts. The first is what would be the ideal size of board that you would be looking to have? And the second part is how would you fill it with a diverse perspective of students on campus?
All right, why don't we start out with the Wester campaign?
Overall, there are currently right now 25 members on the SFRB. It's possible to have 30 at this point in time. The best would be, of course, to have more students, so that way it's more representation, more opinions. And so that way we can get more input on the issues that are being presented in SFRB, of how the money is being sent. As to the second question, which candidates are going to be the most ideal to be on this board, is that correct? The most ideal ones would be the ones that are actually passionate, that actually want to know where that money is going. Is it actually going to be used by the students? Is it actually effectively going? Because I really hate to see money spent where we don't use it. And actually, I've been going to, for example, my college council meetings, and I can see that some of the stuff we really don't need. So I say, hey, can we cut it? And we do. So we scratch things out. So that's really what I'd love to see more. I'd love to see candidates on the board, more of them that actually care and want to actually help out and give us their opinion, because that's what really makes us run.
All right, let's have the Yearby campaign answer next.
So I've noticed with the expansion of the Student Fee Review Board, there has been more student engagement and more questions. Sometimes there are students who just sit back and watch, and that's okay because they're learning and engaging. I would like to see more structured organization of who the students come from. I want to see students who come from the different organizations, whether it be the fraternal organizations or the cultural centers, just so that we can have different perspectives on the fees itself.
First off, I think that's an excellent question. Thank you, Mr. Bondi. I would add that we need more diversity on this board. When I was on SFRB, we had the biology building go through, which was a $120 million building, and the students had to pay $70 million of that. The only students who actually happened to vote against that fee were students of color. It was a striking thing that happened there, where, like I said, only the students of color were the ones, or visible students of color, that voted against that increase. And so low-income students are also always missed out of the discussion because it's a very privileged board to sit on, and actually a lot of finance students or a lot of students who are in ASCSU are the ones who sit on that board. And so I want to get more diversity, more students from all different backgrounds, people who care about sustainability, people who care about other things besides, numbers. So.
All right, and the Sidoriak campaign?
Yeah, so I'm in full agreement with Clayton about expanding SFRB to get a more diverse perspective from students, that and also having students coming from different opinions. So we do have a varying and questioning people who will challenge each other with making decisions. Also, I want to increase outreach. I think for too long that the Student Fee Review Board has been mostly internal within ASCSU, and we should expand that out to not only leadership organizations on campus, not just fraternity and sorority life or SLICE or any other leadership entity here. You need to extend it out to the regular student. There's only 1,200 students who are involved on this campus, and another approximately 28,000 other students who aren't connected to that and who are being affected by those decisions. So I think it's time to outreach to them who aren't involved with that and wouldn't know of it any other way, to get them in there and have their voice heard when making those decisions.
Thank you.
Western campaign have a faith belief and spirituality initiative, and I just wanted to ask the other two parties how they feel about it and whether or not they have similar initiatives on their platforms.
All right, why don't we start with the Yearby campaign?
We have platforms really just geared towards diversity altogether. We want to restore those 16 diversity seats that we have. That's how you're going to hopefully represent more faith. Unfortunately, unlike the Western campaign, I do not want to spend an estimated $4,000 on building faith into the government, especially, I really have I strong believe in the tenets of the Constitution of America, and establishing government, or establishing faith in the government, I feel like would be wrong, especially given the climate of, the things that are occurring today. So I'll leave it at that.
Sidoria, Kim? Yeah, that's fine. 1 minute response.
One thing I want to make clear is that what we're trying to do with ASCSU and working with these faith and belief groups is not to uphold one faith, belief, or spirituality or non-religious view. What we want to do is collaborate with them to improve student issues on campus. We don't want to take it as an exclusive, we are only going to recognize these certain groups, but we want to connect students with their faith and belief communities that they want to get a part of. And then we also want to bring everyone as a whole together to work on issues like mental health, to work on issues like just general issues that students have on campus. And it's about working together. And honestly, this is an issue that people don't want to talk about. They really don't want to talk about. This is the elephant in the room. But I want to make sure that Amel's voice is heard. I want to make sure that every other student in this room is heard, no matter what faith or belief or religious view that they hold. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sidoria campaign, would you also like to respond to that question?
So I am in full support of what Lauren has said about interfaith, whether or not you identify with a certain faith or not, should be addressed with our student government, especially underneath the Department of Diversity or Social Justice. I believe that a person's faith, whether or not they have that, is core to who they are as a person and their identity. With that, we do have a specific platform for more reflection rooms. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what that is a specific space for a student to go in and practice whatever they want to. So if they want to pray, meditate, have a quiet space to just get away from the world, that's for them. So there are some located within the Laurie Student Center right now, and we want to have a couple more in here, as well as in a couple more major buildings here on campus, such as the library in Clark.
And I just want to say that this isn't about separation church and state. This is about creating opportunities and avenues for those of certain faiths to feel more included here at CSU. They bring an incredible perspective. And I work in the disaster nonprofit world and constantly involved with faith-based organizations, and they bring so much to the table. And what we want to do is be able to augment that and allow them the opportunity. And I honestly, Ms. Wester's got some great ideas, and regardless of what happens, I'd love to sit down and talk to her about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello. Well, I feel like this question was sort of addressed in the last one, but as you all know, CSU is a massive world in itself, and as someone who is a non-traditional student and works a lot with international students and kind of sees the wide range of voices that are at this school, makes me wonder why you all think that you are the best person to represent 27,000 very different students.
All right, let's start off with the Yearby campaign.
That's the thing about it. As I do feel I'm the most qualified to represent the students as a whole, I never took the position to speaking for different identities, and that's why I created the bill for diversity, creating 16 seats. I wanted it to actually be more, but I was told to bring it lower and continue to bring it lower until now they only have a committee, which is a committee of ASCSU people basically seeking to represent those identities instead of allowing them to represent themselves. So that's a strong tenet of our campaign. We want to restore that in its original purpose. Allow people to represent themselves because they are the best ones to do it. As much as I know about the LGBT community, I can never speak for them. And I want them to speak, like I said, I want them to speak for themselves, feel empowered to speak for themselves. We also want to create a House of Representatives of some sort where we can get more representatives from other places besides the cultural centers, get more student orgs, get more faith and belief, get more Greek involved into a government, and hopefully if the Senate will agree to allow them to have power to say no, we don't agree with that bill or that stance.
All right, we'll have the Sidoriak campaign respond next.
Sure. First off, I've supported Mr. Yerby in his efforts with his diversity bill, and I think it's a great idea. Now, I've since realized that you can't create these opportunities and expect them to be filled. We actually need to take a step back and look at the systemic failures of why they're not being filled, of why they're no longer filled. And that's mostly because this is not really an inclusive environment. The Senate, I'll admit that. I mean, there's a reason why other identities don't feel comfortable. So we need to realize that. And the Inclusive Excellence Committee that I'm a part of, that Mr. Yerby brought up, is seeking to accomplish figuring out what's systemically wrong. And first things first is to check our privilege. And that doesn't mean white privilege. That means figuring out what sort of benefits you get for who you are, regardless if you're a man, if you're a female, you're white, African American. There's certain benefits that go along with that. And we need to actually take a step back and we need to check that privilege. I think House of Representatives is a great idea. And yeah, so I think that we personally can represent and advocate for those different perspectives, mostly because of our experience. I've been all over the world, well, I wouldn't say all over the world, but to a region, and been able to understand another culture that's different from mine. And Taylor's, you've got a lot of perspective on that too.
Yeah. So CSU has really changed my life. Prior to when I came here, things weren't so great. And when I came here and was exposed to so many different people and got the opportunities that I did, it really shaped who I am as a person. So I want to take that, 10 seconds. So I want to take that and implement that into ASCSU and give back to what is given to me and show everyone here on this campus that that's possible for everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You all have a response?
Yes, I'd just like to build on this idea of the House of Representatives and why the Senate isn't really truly representative of the student body. So the Senate itself was built for the idea of representing the different academic colleges. And inside of those colleges, there are different identities that can't really be represented in this systemic manner. So by separating the idea of having a body where you have academics represented through the Senate and having another body that represents the true diversity of students, whether it be the fraternal organizations or the culture centers, awareness centers, things like that, we can separate those identities and represent the college itself and then the students of who they are and mesh those together to really form the true identity of the students.
And sorry, Kim, if I can add to that. Also with that, when we talk about why they're not being filled because no one's trying to fill them.
10 seconds.
I single-handedly got 10 of those 16 seats filled, and they were actually looking to grow. And now there's only one or two representatives. That's a failure of the administration, not the students.
All right, Western Campaign, would you like to respond?
Absolutely. First off, I'd like to point out that Senate seats are not being filled right now because people don't know when Senate meets. That's one of the biggest problems. Yes, I do agree that my fellow candidates brought up some very valid points, but I also have to point out the fact that we are not out there. People don't know when we meet. People don't know where we meet. That's a big problem. So that's another contributing factor that should be considered. On top of that, I'd love to point out that there are a lot of committees currently out there. The Inclusive Excellence Committee, for example. There are also the External Committee, the Internal Committee, the University Affairs Committee. All of those are welcome to come. Thing is though, people don't know where people meet. People don't know where to find us. That is the biggest problem. Now, to address furthermore, it'll be really, really conceited of me to say that I can represent every single person, every single student here on campus, because I am only one view. I am Russian, I'm a survivor of Yugoslavia. I came here to the United States 15 years ago. I got my citizenship 1 year ago. Woohoo! Here's the thing. I cannot say that story goes for everyone, but here's what I can say. As a senator, I walked out to the dining halls. I said, hey, here's an idea. What do you think of it? Here's a bill that's being currently brought to Senate. What do you think of it? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think you can use it? That's what I tried to do. I actually brought it out. I actually said, hey, I want you a part of this conversation. That's what really needs to happen. We need to include people. Now, yes, some of the points here, the House of Representatives, that perhaps is a good idea. I'd love to entertain it further. I'd really love to see more people apply. But the thing is though, first things first, we need to put ourselves out there. Because what good is a window that's hidden somewhere? It's better to have an open door.
All right, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to say congratulations for making it this far and good luck moving forward. So this is a question for each ticket. How would you go about working with the administration and faculty in addressing the issue of sexual assault and sexual violence?
Sidoriak campaign, you will start.
The first thing that we were wanting to do, so as we all know, there's a lot of construction going on around campus. With that in those construction zones, it's really dark. I know when I walk alone at night, I don't necessarily feel safe walking through there. So with that, to ensure safety for everyone, and then everybody feels comfortable on our campus, we want to make sure that there's lighting in all of those locations. Also, we want to collaborate with the Women and Gender Advocacy Center with the Reframe campaign, which is a campaign that they're doing regarding It's on Us being taken upon by Fort Collins to end the stigma with not only sexual violence, but other stigmas in fraternity and sorority life with mental health and so on and so forth. So that's something that I'm incredibly passionate about and really excited to get started working with them, especially because that is a ever-continuing issue here on our campus and nationwide. And I'm really excited for Fort Collins to begin the works of becoming the first city in the nation to declare themselves an It's on Us campaign city.
Yeah, and that's something that we're going to try to push through the editorial board of the Coloradoan. This is a huge issue, and it's not just a campus issue. This is changing the conversation. This is changing our ethos and our consciousness. And that's sort of the conviction that we need to have and the understanding that we need to have when we go to the administration. So we're not asking really like a top-down approach. This needs to come from us because this is a conversation that needs to be had. This is a serious conversation. This isn't just some fad or trend. This is affecting people's lives, and it should be CSU's priority, honestly, and Fort Collins.
Thank you. Thank you. Wester campaign, your response?
So I just want to start out with the idea that this is why we're going to collaborate with faith, belief, and spirituality groups, because at the end of the day, most faith, beliefs, and spiritualities agree on one thing, and that is helping people. And I want to harness that energy to improve the environment on campus so more people will watch out for each other. And so that will then hopefully lower the rate of sexual assault. But I also want to support the students that do go through something as horrific as that. And through that, I want to continue to try to implement the student absentee policy, which then will protect the student from having to go to their professor and say, hey, I've been sexually assaulted, I have to miss class. Like that, would be very damaging. And just for confidentiality's sake, we want to send those students to case management rather than to their professors, so they can be that advocate for them. And so I'll let Philippe finish up, and thank you for your question.
I think that we can definitely work also with the administration to promote more programs. For example, Read My Lips is a phenomenal program that really focuses on sexual assaults and violence. And there are so many resources that we already as CSU have. We have the counseling services, we have resolution services, we have so many services already here. We need to make sure that people know about them, know that they can utilize them, know that there's SAVA, know that there's WGAC, know that there are all these resources here to accept them. And the thing is, though, that we're out there for them. So the thing is, though, like, it's a horrific experience. It is. And no one should go through it alone. That's why we already have everything out there for you. And we just want you to come and get the services you need, if you need them. If you feel like it's time to talk, feel free. You don't have to, though, if you don't want to. It is your choice entirely, but we are here for you when you do want to come.
All right, Yearby campaign?
Thank you for that question as well. Given that today is actually the first day, it's not just April Fool's, it's the first day of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I think it's a great and it's a pertinent question. The importance of this is I really disheartened about the, again, putting faith in the government as well. I think faith is actually something that you really, when you learn about sexual assault, it's actually really builds up a lot of the problems within the community, and it's about evaluating it. The only thing that can really solve this issue, I believe firmly, is education, and that's why we want to put the sexual assault prevention courses, sexual assault awareness courses, and women's studies courses in the core curriculum. Allow students the opportunity to take these courses and learn so much about it. When you take some of these courses, students often learn, hey, I was assaulted, or they learn, I assaulted someone. And that is something that we need to expand to the entire community. Programs like It's On Us would be a great way to go about it. However, we need to instill more education as just part of the curriculum so we can make people more well-rounded. We also need to have more support. I think that's why we have self-care days. It's not just for other traumatic things, but actually a lot of students actually go through sexual assault when they're on college campus, and so having self-care days, something where you could verify if that experience is affecting your mental health and getting the help you need and not being penalized when you go back into the educational sphere, is two things that can go hand in hand, and that's something that we want to do. We also want to have late night buses. I want there to be a bus to get people home right after the library closes that they can get on so they don't have to walk in the dark.
Thank you. Thank you for that question.
Good evening, everybody. So throughout the debates today, the term diversity has been brought up over and over again. And to me, it sounds like we've been defining diversity as people of color. And as a person of color, I don't think we should be marginalized to equate all of our self-worth to just being a person of color. So I guess, how do you define diversity?
Let's start with the Wester campaign.
Thank you for your question. One thing that I would like to say that Philippe kind of said earlier is that there are 27,000 perspectives on this campus. Every student has come from their own walk of life. They all come from different challenges and life experiences, and we recognize as a diversity. We value that everyone as an individual is diverse and unique in and of themselves, and therefore they are inherently valuable. So your question is very good in pointing out that we need to not just include students of color, because what that would do is just compound the issue and make it more exclusive, not inclusive. When you put a group outside, you say they're marked by this, that's excluding them. We want to include them and say, you are welcome into our space, we really care about your voice, and we inherently value the perspectives that you bring to our organization.
And just to add a little bit more to that, diversity is so many things. If you want, it's just like, the best way to describe it is like a giant, giant bowl filled with tiny little balls, all right? And each ball is just a different color, it's a different shape, it's a different size. And there's so many different things because there's culture, sex, gender, age, ability, race, nationality, and that's just a few to list. But honestly, there's just so many things that include into diversity because every single one of us here is diverse. None of us are alike. For one, we all have different experiences. We all live through different things. So when it really comes to being diverse, it's really coming to being you. So we just want everyone to be included in the conversation. So that's really what it's all about.
Thank you. Let's move on to the Yearby campaign.
I think that's a great question, and that was also a concern that a lot of people had with the bill that I proposed, and that's why it didn't go just for people of color. It was for resources for disabled students. It was for Women's Gender Advocacy Center. It was for a lot of different cultures as well, veterans and adult learners, different populations on the campus. When we use the term diversity, you can have two different definitions. You can have a definition that includes all different points of diversity, anything different, unique about a person, you know, the way they do their hair, the way they walk, and all that kind of stuff. But however, if you focus too much on that definition, you really miss the work that needs to be done. And the work really needs to be done centered around the big 8 identities. And that's where you can find the need for more change. Those were those marginal groups. So when I talk about diversity, what I'm seeking to represent is I'm seeking to represent people who have been put down historically and are continuing to be put down in society now and on campus. And so I want to work to support those people more, as well as bring in anyone and everyone who feels diverse as well.
I'm going to have to agree with both my opponents. I see diversity as experiential and then also inherent, and we need to understand the difference between the both of them. And I think, yeah, everyone's unique. They bring a lot to the table, but we have to understand that society, there's something deep within it that creates barriers for certain groups of people, that they are historically oppressed. And that's the reason why we have diversity offices here on campus, so that we can try to overcome those barriers, provide benefits and you know, certain avenues that would make it more seamless for their educational experience. With that being said, that doesn't mean we shouldn't acknowledge that there's a lot of different perspectives, and also to not just assume someone's not diverse, to just say, I mean, for instance, me, I don't necessarily look very diverse, but I'm a disabled veteran. You know, there's a certain perspective that I can bring to the table that maybe someone else can't. And there's also other people out there that they bring a certain perspective that I can't bring. So I think we do need to understand as diversity being something more than just skin color.
All right, thank you. Go right ahead, whenever you're ready.
Working? Cool. So you mentioned something about instead of having a window no one can see, a door that's wide open. Like, let's see. Like, how do you suggest showing students a door? Like, how are you going to get yourself out there?
Hello? Excellent. An excellent question, thank you. The best way to open the doors is to let all the people from the inside of the offices come out, to talk to the students. That's the best way, because people need to know that the doors are there for them, that they're open, and that anyone can come. That's the point that I really want to emphasize. And what better way to spread that? Because think about it this way, if all of us are in the ASCSU are cooped up in our offices, waiting for students to walk in through the doors, but nobody knows the doors exist, how are we ever going to get anyone to walk in through the doors, right? So that's the only way that I see is, that's the best way I see. It's not the only way, but it is definitely the best way to actually go out and engage the community. That's what I really want to do. So open the doors, you know? Open them from the outside.
And a way we want to do this is by expanding the Past Student Task Force. It's a task force that I started this year. And it's basically comprised mostly of students that are not in ASCSU. And I specifically and deliberately searched people out who weren't a part of the organization in order to give us more student perspective on issues concerning academics. And so that's what this task force kind of works on. And so we want to kind of try to expand that and get more students knowing about it so they can actually apply and have the opportunity to give some input to the CSU administration directly and provide that access to students who are not directly in ASCSU. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions you'd like to ask? Would you like the other candidates to respond as well? All right, then let's go on to the Yearby campaign.
Would you like to, like, I guess, rephrase the question? Because that was very directed at the quote they had.
I was hoping that everyone would answer that. Just the idea, I was using his words of showing people the door. How would you put the government out to the people? How would you advertise yourself? How would you get people involved?
Okay. I mean, obviously I have experience being shown the door, so I want to open the door too. I want to get more students involved with ASCSU, involved in that discussion, and that's really telling them the issues. You know, being on the plaza, and I'm sure my opponents can attest. You know, students, when you tell them what's going on, they definitely have some strong opinions about the issues, and we need to listen to those, as well as, like I said, when part of my diversity bill, again, the reason why I wanted to create structural difference in the organization is because to really get the voice, it's not just opening the door and going out and listening to people, it's giving them a seat at the table, a place to actually speak for themselves, hear the issues. Again, the students of CSU are not stupid. Give them the information, they will give you a great solution, and we can find strength in numbers to mobilize and challenge the issues that we're facing. Thank you.
So, if the CPD was a dead horse, I'd be beating it. I've said this. I've said this, you know, throughout the night, and I don't necessarily need to reiterate it, but that's how I would harness that social leverage is, you know, having people who are not experts on a solution, but they're deeply involved, they're impacted at the table, and then turning those grievances, those ideas into solutions. You know, in the Marines, I had a lot of young Marines under my wing, and I have always had an open door policy. And it's difficult to have that balance because you don't necessarily want to have such an open door policy that you're always going to be bombarded. You know, you need to find that balance. But I think I have the expertise through the CPD, through, you know, my facilitation, through the Marines, to be able to reach out to people and bring it to their grievances to the administration, to city council, to the departments. And that's how I would accomplish it.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Sorry. So, we're going to build a new stadium, and this school is about to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on this new stadium. I was just wondering, and also Tony Frank said that he was going to raise the money, and it appeared he didn't raise enough money, and now he had to sell some bonds. So, and he said that the cost and the maintenance wasn't going to affect the students, the education and tuition. So, if the stadium starts to cost the school money, how will you protect the quality of our education, and how will you ensure that we don't have to pay for the cost and the maintenance of the stadium?
Let's start off with the Yearby campaign.
Again, that's a great question as well. You know, when we talk about the stadium, it really signifies so much as just a symbol. Not only are we tearing down the environmentally centered places on campus to build a stadium, we're investing more money than we've ever invested in really any place on campus into football, a sport that doesn't really make money. Our volleyball makes money, our swimming makes money because they don't spend as much as they take, or more than they take in. And so it just signifies so much of a different direction. We are really trying to be something that we're not. We're trying to be a Oregon State. Oregon State should be trying to be like CSU, more sustainable, more research, pioneering where we need to go. And when we talk about that, the CFO has already said that it doesn't make economic sense, that we're going to have to raise tuition, we're going to have to bring in 10% more revenue as a university just to keep up with the interest payments. The students were not involved in that decision, and our president of ASCSU did not tell us that the plan of the course of action was changing. I think if the students knew how the course of action was changing, they could have been able to mobilize and give more of their opinion. About 1,000 students were sampled in a survey by ASCSU, and they said that we wanted to renovate Hughes. That's sustainable, you know. Reusing something, recycling something, riding it till the wheels fall off, that is sustainability. Building a new stadium for $600 million is not sustainable.
And on to the Sidoriak campaign.
Quickly touch on the importance of college athletics. So it's been proven that athletics does improve retention because it gives students a tradition to bond together with and a common denominator for every single student to be a RAM. So that's important. With that, it's also with a bigger football program and a bigger athletics program, it brings more students into the university. It shows them who we are on ESPN. Although that's the culture of our country. You look at other universities and you see them on TV and you're like, wow, maybe I would want to go there. So that attracts more students into our university, which ends up being beneficial for everyone. And then Jason, do you want to touch on?
Sure, this is a tough issue. I've been back and forth on it, but regardless of how I feel or anyone else feels, the stadium's going to happen. So the true discussion is, how do we make the stadium best reflect the students? You know, how do we make it so that when we walk into that stadium for a game, we're like, this is our house. You know, lay claim to it. Not some corporate ploy to bring in donors and students. That part's important, but it's also important to make sure that we keep the land grant mission, to keep education, high education, affordable and accessible. So we do need to have a firm stance. The reason why we're within these circumstances is because the student voice has been fragmented. You know, President Sam Gwynn has tried her hardest to incorporate that voice, but I think there's some other areas, especially in CSU, where it wasn't coordinated, and really we need to rally now. It has to happen. So make sure we upheld the land grant mission, but also make sure the stadium best reflects the students. That's what it comes down to now.
10 seconds. Thank you. Wester campaign?
Excellent. Just really quickly, I love Ram Madness and I love the athletics, but I like them way over there in Hughes Stadium, away from the residence halls. That echoes a lot of students. That's a lot of students that I've talked to. They said, you know, we don't want it on campus to be right next to Newsom, to Academic Village, because we're trying to study. And Friday nights with all the lights and all the people coming out, you know, having fun partying, slightly inebriated, let's be honest here. But the thing is though, they want the madness to be over there. My personal opinion, I think it'll disrupt a lot, but that really doesn't matter. You asked me a question about student money and whether or not that's going to be impacted. I went to an open forum with Tony Frank, and that was last year in the spring. He held an open forum once he announced that this was going to be built. He did try to raise money through the alums. And the thing is though, the way he told me, and I quote Tony Frank indirectly, that in essence, people can choose what they want to donate to. They can donate to academics, they can donate to certain buildings, they can donate to renovations, they can donate to athletics. But the thing is though, all those accounts are separate. It's not one lump of sum of money. So only athletics money is going to be used to build the stadium. That is what Tony Frank told me. That is at least what I understood, all right? There we go, responsibility there. Now, I don't think that it is possible to dip into the academics. I don't think that is going to happen at all. Here's why. Because we have now sold bonds. We have now done this. Now, we did poll the students. We did. And as presidential candidate Yerby said before, a lot of students said they want to renovate Hughes. I agree with them. But the thing is though, the money for students that needs to go to academics will not be touched. That is as far as I understand. And I've also thank you so much for stopping by and talking to me on the plaza. I sent Tony Frank an email. He's going to come back to me with the revenues and costs and the interests, if you will. So thank you so much for asking that question.
Thank you very much.
And just to kind of snowball off of the stadium question and also talking about student fees, I would like to elaborate what you kind of just mentioned towards the end there. How would the stadium affect the students and our student fees? I know you guys talked about trying to lower student fees, but this is huge, you know, and so I think it's kind of a problem that we need to address.
Sidori at campaign, you will go first.
It's just one of those things that we don't necessarily know until it happens, but as far as I'm concerned, a lot of effort is going into making sure that student fees aren't affected. Now, that isn't necessarily true if you think of unintended consequences, especially with parking, about to lose 400 spaces, you know, 4 people in 1 space. So we are going to have to possibly do something in regards to student fees. And we can't make a promise that we won't raise them, but one thing that we can do to kind of counter that is to make sure other fee areas are being maximized. If they're not reaching the most students as possible, then maybe take a little bit away from that and seeing if we can apply it somewhere, possibly parking services. So it's an uphill battle. And that's why we need someone who is professional, has the tact to actually sit down with Tony Frank and the Board of Governors and ensure that the student voice is taken seriously, that they don't budge. And also can coordinate all those student voices from different areas. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. Like I said, that's why we are in the place that we are, is because we haven't been able to consolidate those grievances effectively. I think me and Taylor, we can accomplish that. I think we have the experience to do that, and I think we have a strong enough voice and presence to be able to not only use the skills to consolidate those voices, but have Tony Frank really take us seriously.
All right, thank you. On to the Wester campaign.
Hi. As I recently said, you know, Tony Frank said that's what's going to happen. Those were his words. My friend decided to take a slightly more, one of the best ways to describe it is extremist route. He emailed Tony Frank and said to him straight up, I don't feel like you listen to my voice. You are going to ask me to contribute to CSU as an alumni. I will not do so because you completely went against my wishes. You did not listen to me. That's how I feel. Now, I think personally that's a little extreme, but however, that definitely hurts, and that definitely is heard, because I think that's effective. Now, as for student fees, how they're allocated, that is completely, let's go into the Vice Presidential SFRB, the Student Fee Review Board, and that's where you can, I invite you all to come. Please join into the conversation. You will see every single cent spent on whatever it is we're spending it on. Is it on flipped classrooms? Is it on getting a new TV for this building here? Is it going to be actually spent on this organization here that needs to do this? Is it going to be a salary increase? Is it going to be a thing to run flyers? What is it actually going to? Now, you come, you will be able to speak. You'll be able to say, hey, actually, I don't think that is a good amount. I personally would cut down on it because I don't think that's an effective way of communicating. So when it comes to the stadium and talking about student fees, I think they're separate enough. But yes, absolutely, there should be discussion between the administration and the students. And what better way to do that as ASCSU presidents and vice presidents? Because we listen. I have listened to a lot of people say, hey, this is not my cup of tea. And I'm phrasing this lightly, you know? But overall, I get the message.
10 seconds.
I can send it. But if you really want to know where the student fees are going, please come to the SFRB. I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for asking the question.
All right, Yerby campaign.
Right. For asking, oh, there we go. So thank you for asking this question, and I really think that this gets to the heart of the loophole of the idea of not raising tuition. Inside the Student Fee Review Board, there is an area for athletics that every student pays for to have tickets to these events. That's why it's free to go to these events. And with the stadium, we need to raise revenue to pay for the interests, and I could easily see this fee going up because of this. There's also going to be indirect increases, whether it be parking or whatnot. Parking will decrease about 400 spaces within the next few years. That's not even accounting for the fact that there will be spaces missing during the construction of these parking garages. Those are going to build on students and increase the price of education. And these really need to be addressed. There also needs to be this better student voice in the stadium itself. During spring break, the City Council voted on an intergovernmental agreement with CSU that created a stadium advisory group, and on that board sits a student who's appointed by the administration. I don't feel that that's going to properly represent the students, and right now I'm actually in the process of creating a bill that we will be sending to City Hall if it's passed, saying we want proper student representation on this board. That way we can have a voice to properly show how we can fight against these fees and all these mitigations that are going to happen with the stadium.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. So I have a question for all of the presidential candidates. And so I've been a part of ASCSU for the last 3 years, and to me, one of the biggest hurdles I see for ASCSU is having a really welcoming and accepting atmosphere, and really being open to all opinions, and not being an intimidating organization, because I think we can be really intimidating sometimes. And so I think ASCSU tends to attract really passionate individuals, and I think that's great, because I think a lot of times we're the best at advocating for issues, but I also see it as a double-sided sword, and I think sometimes this leads to qualities such as being really strong, dominant personality that you can be intimidating. A lot of us can. So I think I would like each of the presidential candidates to talk about an experience that they've had where they have either been able to put their personal opinions aside to best represent students, or where they have been able to respectfully disagree with opposing opinions.
Western Campaign, we'll start with you.
I want to thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. So one thing that I want to touch on first is that I am an international studies major. I've studied numerous cultures. I've been in numerous cultures. I know how to adapt and to adjust to different lifestyles. The way people live is different. Even among us tonight, you know, we all have different lifestyles. And I think what it really comes down to is inherently valuing the individual that you're speaking with. And realizing that they are somebody who has ideas, they have concerns to bring to the table, they have different experiences. And one of the ways that I have personally kind of dealt with this on campus is just honestly just being a friend. All the directors that I work with currently, I feel like I've been able to establish good connections with them, regardless of what I think of their lifestyle or what my personal opinion is, because that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What matters is, am I valuing them for who they are and what they bring to the table? And am I being a person that is being considerate and kind and compassionate? But then again, am I also a student that can be, or a student leader that can be approachable? Can I be approachable? Can people come to me with their issues? Can I build relationships with other people? And that's really how I've worked throughout ASCSU during my time there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yerby Campaign?
Part of this goes with, you know, it's no question that I'm a very strong-minded leader, and I think that's the leader that we need right now. But with that, I'm never going to be a trustee. I ask this question a lot when senators actually try to represent the Undercolored Leadership Council. You know, what kind of leader are you? Are you a trustee or a delegate? I'm a delegate. I want to find out what the students want, and I want to make that happen. I don't want to make decisions for them. You know, and I also, like I said, I have ability to compromise as well. With the diversity bill, I had to make one of the biggest compromises I ever had to being in ASCSU, which was not allowing these seats to have voting rights. You know, seats that were obviously given to people who were oppressed historically, and telling them that they did not have a vote in this space hurt me to the core, especially being African American. but I was able to do that so we could see progress and that hopefully in 2 years, the bill can be where I wanted it to be. Also with the bus route, the on-campus shuttle, I was actually against that shuttle until I actually talked to students, and overwhelmingly they said, we want that shuttle. And so I made it happen. I wrote the recommendation myself, sat down with Aaron Fodge, and it was eventually made possible. So those are ways, like I said, I changed my mind, compromised, and I've always been a firm believer that you have to do what you were hired to do. I'm looking to be hired by the students this spring, and hopefully I can continue to represent them.
Thank you. Sidoriak campaign.
So I know how to be an advocate. I went to Congress to lobby for veterans legislation. I helped pass that legislation as the Clay Hunt Suicide Prevention Act. So I know how to go into someone else's shoes and speak on behalf of them to the best of my ability. And I'm always butting heads, especially being a transitioning veteran, but keeping my composure while doing that. I've had people come up to me saying that post-traumatic stress disorder was really just something that veterans do or talk about to get attention. And I gritted my teeth, but I had a conversation about that. And we didn't convince each other, but I was able to keep my calm for that conversation. Now, there's been times that I've spoken with the administration on some of my endeavors, and they haven't agreed with me. And that's especially true with the Citizen Review Board, the civilian oversight of the police department here on CSU. And Amy Parsons, she's a tough cookie, and she has some concerns about feasibility and whatnot. But through that conversation, we're able to actually talk about the values and intentions of a Citizen Review Board. And she didn't necessarily agree, but I think with the skills of being an advocate for the students, that we can actually come to a compromise. And regardless of how much stonewalling occurs with the administration, I think through my perspectives, I'm able to actually really advocate for the students and have their voice heard, especially seriously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, okay. So I have kind of a broad question for all three campaigns, and either Vice President or President can answer this. And please don't answer with the stadium, because I think we've rehashed that enough. What is the biggest challenge facing you as the incoming 2015-2016 administration?
Thank you for that question. We will start with the Yearby campaign.
Well, I haven't been elected yet. That's the challenge. Campaigning is a challenge. Getting up every single day to do this is a challenge. But it's a challenge I accepted and take graciously. The biggest challenge, I believe, is going to fix the image of ASCSU. ASCSU in the previous years has not been representative and frankly hasn't done anything for the students. Fixing that image is going to be the biggest challenge. Also fixing the fact that we threw away our legitimacy at the chance to kick out someone who's trying to create change. Fixing those kind of things, welcoming more students, that's going to be the biggest challenge that I have. And reversing it, making students feel, especially, like I said, without saying the S word, especially with all the things that are happening on campus, the parking, the new buildings, the way the administration is going forward and changing the university. When I was a senior in high school, looking at CSU, it was $19,000 to go here. And I felt, wow, that's a lot. My dad's head spined, when I came to the campus, I knew this was the right size for me. It wasn't too big, not that intimidating. The culture was great, but I feel like we're losing that. That's gonna be the biggest challenge, is trying to keep CSU great, trying to keep CSU green, and trying to keep CSU affordable. Do you wanna add to that?
No, it's perfect.
All right. We'll move on to the Sidoriak campaign.
I agree, rebranding ASCSU is a serious challenge, especially with the unprofessionalism that has occurred in the last semester. But honestly, I think the biggest challenge is being able to harness that public opinion, turn it into social leverage. Honestly, if there is an issue here on campus, it's largely because the voice is fragmented. There's so many student organizations trying to get a dog in the race. And then when it comes time to go to the administration or city council, the departments, we're uncoordinated. And that's an issue. And that's been an issue for every single administration. So it's something that we have to continuously wrestle with, that we have to evolve to, adapt and overcome. I say Center for Public Deliberation as if it is the end all, but it's not. I understand that it is a serious challenge. And every single issue on campus is derived from that challenge. And we cannot frame our solutions to the problem. We have to take a step back, find out that these issues are interconnected, they're systemic, and it's largely because the student voice isn't actually being harnessed. And I think that's the biggest issue. And I think me and Taylor have a lot of great ideas on how we can do that.
Thank you very much. Western Campaign?
So I just want to say that CSU is a university that turns out world-class leaders. We are a hidden gem in Colorado, but I would like to make the hidden gem become the crown jewel. And so one of the most difficult challenges that I believe will face the administration coming in is having difficult conversations. I think particularly around the faith and belief initiatives that I'm trying to accomplish, starting those conversations are difficult. There's going to be a lot of pushback. There's other issues like the on-campus stadium, the U+2 parking issues. All of those are going to be difficult conversations to have not only with students but with the administration as well. And we need to make sure that we advocate for the student voice in that way. And I also think that as far as rebranding ASCSU and making it more professional, I do believe that we are a very professional organization, and I believe the current administration has done a great job setting the foundation for the next administration. And I'm really looking forward to see who will be elected and how the organization will change because of it. And so I think just having those difficult conversations, I think standing up for something that is difficult to stand up for, to not only the CSU administration, but like the city of Fort Collins as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to Philippe.
I'm gonna be really, really brief. The biggest challenge that I see for myself is gonna be getting people more involved, because I get it. You go to class, you do homework, you go to work, you go to bed, repeat. I get it. I've done that in my life. But the thing is, though, it's not just that. It's also about being with all these people here, and it's about getting more people involved. So that's going to be my biggest challenge, is to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question.
Sweet, I'm the last one. So, howdy, you all looking nice tonight and make me look underdressed. But anyway, you all talked about parking and that we're going to lose some parking with the new stadium and stuff like that. And I heard rumors that they're trying to make it a car-free university. So how you all deal with that, and what plans do you have to make sure that we still have parkings on campus and I can drive my nice car back to campus? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So Doriat Campaign, you will start.
Yeah, so we're not in Chicago, we're not in New York. This doesn't necessarily have to be a car-free campus. And I think that's sort of the direction that some people are trying to take it to. But, you know, we can increase the buses, we can make their routes longer, we can make them go longer, but for someone, especially myself, who is disabled, I would prefer to use my own vehicle and park it on campus. And yes, we are going to have a parking lot south of campus, but we have to ensure that we can actually use that. Maybe have a shuttle from that parking lot going to campus. Ensure that the lighting is correct there, because we don't want to make people have to walk further from campus during the nighttime, putting them in danger. But really, largely the reason why the parking plan came out the way it is, and I could say this about almost anything, there was no student involvement really with that. And we're kind of trying to play catch up. even with faculty. They've submitted an opinion before us. So we need to get student involvement in there. We need to actually have our voice heard. Now, the transportation, parking services, they're receptive to us. They actually want to rebrand themselves so they're not seen as evil with their parking tickets. And I think that's an olive branch. I think they're ready to have a conversation. Now, remember, they're in a corner. Only the revenue comes from themselves, from the parking tickets or the parking passes. So we have to be able to understand that. We need to understand where everyone at the table is coming from. But largely, we haven't really had a voice in that conversation, and I think that's where it starts. Whether we make parking on the periphery, but we have to have parking on campus. That's not something we should compromise on.
Thank you very much. Wester Campaign.
Okay, thank you for your question. So one of the things that we want to work on, since parking is going to be a huge issue next year, is just making sure that all the students' voices are being heard about the parking issues that they're going to have. And part of the way we want to address this is we do believe alternative transportation is more sustainable, and we would like to keep encouraging alternative forms of transportation. But a couple ways we want to mitigate the parking issue is through potentially creating a program similar to the MAX, which is on the east side of campus. We want to try to expand that to the west side of campus and see if that is possible at all. We also want to look at simpler solutions, so looking at the bus routes and making sure their times are efficient, that buses are arriving on time is important, because that's a simple solution that doesn't cost anything, and it can really improve students getting to campus faster. We also want to look into adding buses to the Elizabeth Street corridor, since we realize that that is a very busy area of campus for students to be coming from. And we also want to look at the plausibility of an off-site commuter lot with a shuttle straight to campus. So students coming from Windsor, students coming from Loveland, the students that have to drive longer distances, if we can find a solution of parking their cars remotely off campus and then shuttling them directly to the campus, that's kind of one of the things that we also want to look into. And then we just want to expand the awareness for carpooling programs as well, because CSU has a carpooling program and not many students know about it. And I think it's a great form of alternative transportation, and it will actually help students to be able to better mitigate, paying for a parking pass is really expensive.
10 seconds.
So it'll help students be more cost effective when coming to school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. So I would just like to clear up some points here, just so you know that the south lot, the lot on Southern Campus, will actually have 2 buses going every 15 minutes to get students from that lot to the CSU campus. There is actually off-campus commuter parking right now hosted at the International Students Housing Facility on Elizabeth that's not being utilized very frequently because there is not very much visibility regarding this facility, and it's often underutilized because of that. Also for the MAX, it's going to be really hard to get something like that underway because the city's been working for over a decade trying to get this project built and has taken millions of dollars in federal grants, which we don't really have access to since we just got a bunch of them for the MAX. We really need to hold the university accountable for the fact that they have been building on lots and not paying parking services any money. If a building was built on top of where a dorm structure was previously, they would give dining services money, but they have not been doing this for parking services, and it's been squeezing their funds so that there won't be this parking. They're trying to create parking on the periphery, but it's time for us to get creative with our solutions. We need to have ideas like motorcycles can't drive in the snow. We need to have those lots allocated so that when there is snow on the ground, students can park their four-wheel drive vehicles on there. We need to have late-night bus routes from the library so students don't have to park in the library after 4 p.m. To get home when it's late and dark. Also, we need to improve the number of carpool passes and make those cheaper so that students who do live with other students can get to school without crowding those parking lots. We need to really become creative with our solutions instead of looking at the general things that we have in the past.
And to add to that, it's really about affordability as well for me. When we, like I said, we're losing 400, as well as we're making a tiered system, which is really gonna think is gonna exacerbate our class
10
problems
seconds.
as a university. When you have to pay so much more to park closer, you're gonna feel like less of a student if you can't afford that, and I really want to fight against that.
Good timing there. Thank you.
All right, hi again. So my question is for the European King platform specifically. So I think a lot of times for the uninvolved student here at CSU, they see ASCSU elections come around and they see a lot of platforms, a lot of the same platforms year and year again come around of things that ASCSU has tried to accomplish and failed. And so my question for you is specifically kind of around your U+2 platform a little bit and other platforms as well, but what would you say to the student that says you're falsely promising things to them, and have you gone through steps that ASCSU maybe hasn't gone through to accomplish these things that we've tried and failed before?
So we've been really honest with this idea throughout the entire campaign that U+2 will be the hardest thing on our platform other than getting the sexual assault prevention courses in the AUCC. So the reason that this is the time that it would be accomplishable is because the city is growing at such a tremendous rate that apartment complexes are being pressured to be built. And I was actually speaking with the gentleman who is in charge of working with the new mayor earlier today, saying that they are willing to have the conversation at the city level on that, releasing U+2 to this idea of U+N, having the number of bedrooms per household occupied will release about 1,000 rooms into the market and decrease price for housing for students in the meantime while these apartment complexes are being built. So the conversation is ready to be had. The real big issues right now around that are parking. And we've also been working around ideas to change the idea of that's really one of the big issues around it is where are these cars going to go when you have a 5-bedroom facility and 5 cars in front of it. So that's the real big issue that we're trying to address right now, but the city is willing to have that conversation. And I've spoken with multiple council members as well. Gino Campana said that this issue really hasn't been brought up recently, but the students are ready to talk. And the students are ready to change U+2, not only for the students, but also there's been a lot of push from elderly folks on Social Security who are really feeling threatened and pushed out of Fort Collins because of the rising housing prices. So this is going to be the hardest task for our platform, but it is accomplishable if we communicate with the city and they're ready to communicate on this.
So like I said, to reiterate, Clayton has already been speaking to the city manager. We've been working with Ward Luthi, which is important to say because we need all of the students to vote for Ward Luthi. He's already publicly said that he's against U+2. We've worked with his campaign. He knows our faces. He was actually on the plaza today. So if we can get him into office,
10
that'd be
seconds.
the easiest route to success. But we're also able to take legal advice as well.
Thank you very much. Would either of the other campaigns like to respond? Jason, go ahead.
Sure. There's a reason why that's not on our platform, and that's because no one can promise that. What it comes down to is someone that can actually be taken seriously. And, I think all of us have sat down with city council members and had this conversation. I know the current administration is in talks about U+3, about creating more zones within the city, and also making more lenient ordinances. So I don't want to jump on anyone's coattails, but I know I have a rapport with city council. I'm certainly not going to throw my eggs in the basket of someone who potentially may not win his council seat. But I can assure you, me and Taylor will have a serious discussion with those involved in order to accomplish getting more affordable housing for students.
Wester campaign?
Thank you for this question. So we understand that the U+2 issue is really a multifaceted problem. We understand that it is not only about the U+2 issue, but it's also about parking because the cost of living is rising around campus. Usually the closer you live to campus, the more you pay. And so this is causing students to move further out. They're causing them to have to drive to campus because they live so far away. And so we want to work together with the parking issue and the U+2 issue to establish a good working plan of how we can provide alternative transportation students, and also how we can lower student housing. And I would agree with Mr. Sodoriak as far as
10
we don't want to
seconds.
make promises that we can't keep, and so we want to find alternative and innovative solutions to lower the cost of student housing.
Any last questions from the audience? All right. This concludes the 2015 ASCSU Presidential Debate. Thank you to the candidates, to the audience, and to those tuning in on collegian.com, the app, and Channel 11. Don't forget to vote. Voting is coming up April 6th through April 8th. You can do it on RamWeb. There will also be polling stations in the Morgan Library and the Laurie Student Center. Stay updated with your election coverage on collegian.com. Make sure you get educated about the presidential and senatorial campaigns, and get out and vote. Thank you.